Welcome, everybody. This is the School District of Prescott Board of Education regular meeting. I'll call the meeting to order, subject section 1983 Wisconsin statutes. We'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pat, would you like to lead, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is a special presentation by Coach Ryan. I'm going to say Coach. You're always going to be Coach.
Good evening. Again, as was said, I'm Jeff Ryan. I just wanted to say a couple things about a really exciting event that 13 Prescott students and Wauwatosa West students will be involved in next month. I have a couple pictures up there. The 13 students have been invited to talk about their experience up in Lac du Flambeau. And I know this board is well aware of the relationship that we have with that community. This fall was the 26th trip, fall trip, and it was the first time another school joined us. And if you talk to anybody who knows me, that was something that I'd always hoped would happen at some point. And I got to be good friends and got to know an English teacher, Chris Lazarski, from Wauwatosa West during the summer, and he trusted me, took a leap of faith, and then brought 5 students from Wauwatosa up to Lac du Flambeau, and we spent the time up there with them. It just was, again, an incredible experience. And what they've been asked to do is present at the Wisconsin Council for the Social Studies State Conference in Madison, which is a nice conference, a big conference. Hundreds of educators from Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, some from Michigan, and they're going to be asked to, or they are going to present about their experience. They're going to talk about the why, the what, and the importance of that place-based learning experience. And the kids have been really working hard preparing for that. And what's kind of interesting is the theme of the conference is empowering student voices. Yet, our presentation is the only one led by students, which I think is kind of ironic. So we're pretty happy about that. So I just, again, I've said this many times to this board, and I'm going to say it again. I cannot begin to thank you so much for the support that you've given me and the students connected to this experience in Lac du Flambeau. It's a very unique thing that we do, and there's no way it's possible if I don't have the support of the board, of administration, current superintendent, past superintendents. It's just not possible to do something like this of this magnitude. And one of the things we're going to talk about is to try to convince or persuade some other schools to do something like this. Part of the presentation is presenting a tiered approach. To do what Prescott and Wauwatosa did, I think is, incredible, and that might be a little bit intimidating for some school districts. So what we've developed is a Tier 1, Tier 2, all the way to Tier 4 approach. You got to get started somewhere and somehow, and of course we'll open up the invitation to anybody who wants to come on the summer trip. Like I always say to the board, our summer trip is July 9th through the 12th. We've had, I have to say the numbers again, 424 Prescott High School students have participated in this program, have traveled to Lac du Flambeau, over 150 community members, and this summer will be the 25th trip. So we'll have had 51 total trips to Lac du Flambeau in the last 26 years. I'm really proud of that. And again, it doesn't happen by accident. Just really excited for the kids to have this opportunity. So I just want to say thank you, or as the Ojibwa say, Miigwech, which means thank you in Ojibwa. Thank you very much, and I'm sure you don't have any questions, but thanks a million. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. We'll move on. Recognition of visitors next. As always, the rules for public comment are as follows. Please approach the podium one at a time, stating your name, municipality, and topic you would like to address. A lot of time is 3 minutes per individual, or 6 if you're representing a group that is present at the meeting. All comments should be directed to the board and not to staff or other participants. The board will not act on any comments that are made during a meeting. The presiding officer may direct the district administrator to follow up with that individual at a later date. The public comment section will be limited to 30 minutes unless board action is taken to extend. And as always, our public comment policy, you can refer to that for a full description. Anybody care to be recognized at this time? Everybody gets sick of me saying it, but the one time I need it and I don't say it, then we get burned. So, anybody? All right, we're going to move on. Thank you. Good news. You want to go to Caden here?
Yep.
Caden?
Okay. Good evening. My name is Caden Hillebrand, and I am the school board representative for the student body. This past weekend, the high school band traveled to Orlando, Florida to perform some of their pieces. This trip offers a fun, collaborative environment for our band students to showcase their talents. Last Wednesday, the middle schoolers went to the Falcon Center at the University of Wisconsin-River Falls for their quarter reward party. Additionally, each class had an assembly to celebrate their academic and reading achievements. Continually, in January, Trig Proshinsky, a member of the Wisconsin State Assembly, visited Mr. Ryan's civics classes at the high school. Students had the opportunity to ask Mr. Proshinsky questions as they learned about our state's politics. Furthermore, on March 5th, State Senator Rob Staffold is set to visit the high school in the morning. His visit will provide students the opportunity to gain insights on Wisconsin politics at the state Senate level and will allow them to voice their opinions, concerns, or ask questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Caden.
Hi, Sandy Strand. Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Reeve. I have the pleasure of sharing some good news from around the district on behalf of our administrative team. The Prescott Intermediate School is preparing for their beach dance party that is going to occur this Friday, sponsored by the Malone Parent Committee. Very, very appreciative of the Malone Parent Committee for supporting these types of events for our kids. They're super excited, and decorations started going up this afternoon after school. It already looks very festive in the cafeteria. All of our schools are participating in some way in February, which is Random Acts of Kindness Month. The elementary and the middle school last week and the intermediate school have been participating in theme days. And then also just want to do a shout out for the girls dance team. Everybody by now knows that they rocked it at state again. But if you have not taken the time to watch their routines online, they're phenomenal. So just a shout out to the strong effort that they put forth every year and the exemplary work they put forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sandy. We're going to move on. All right, on to business. The first item here is the consent agenda, and we'll adopt the regular agenda in this as well. The consent consists of the regular meeting minutes from January 28th, 2026, finance reports, personnel report for non-licensed staff, change of, that's never mind, that's part of the 3. The CMS for Schools website redesign contract, and 4K agreements with community providers for 26-27 school year. That is what is in the consent. So if we want to, first of all, does anybody want to pull anything out of the consent? No. If nothing is going to if nobody wants to pull anything out, then we can move to adopt the agenda and approve the consent agenda all in one.
I move to adopt the agenda and approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? That carries. Thank you. Item B is personnel reports for certified staff and retirement.
Ann Cressley, our middle school and high school teacher, is retiring after 30 years as a Prescott teacher. Her service to all of our students is so greatly appreciated. She's changed a lot of lives and brought a lot of love of art to all of our students.
Excellent. Anybody have any comments on this one? No?
I wish her the best. I know she's been with my daughter for the last couple years, so she's probably ready for retirement. Wish her the best.
Anybody that can get to 30 years.
Congratulations.
Well
That's
done.
amazing.
All right, we can take a motion.
I move to approve the personnel report for the certified staff as listed.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item C, consider Wisconsin Council for Social Studies Overnight Conference.
This is what Mr. Ryan just talked about. It being the first time they're going overnight, it requires a business item to keep our insurance company happy.
Pat, questions, anything?
I don't. With it.
Tanya?
I think he left too early. He should have stayed for this part, but no, I'm really proud of him and the work that the students do. This is something that I think is we know how great this is here in Prescott, but it's a wonderful opportunity to share with other districts to show how they can go about doing that, and it's just a really good way to keep getting our name out there and showcase some of the great things that we do. So pretty exciting. I'm really happy for them. I wish I was down there with them. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool. I have had the pleasure of going on one of the summer trips, and it was absolutely fantastic. I recommend it to anybody if they want to go and would like to see what. First of all, the area is absolutely beautiful up there, and then just the interaction with the people and with our students, and it's. Everybody has a good time. The things I learned, I didn't never learn in high school when I was growing up, so I think I learned more on this trip than I did in high school. So, but I like what Mr. Ryan said, that they've got kind of that four-tiered approach for other schools, and I think that's valuable, really valuable for our district to share with other teachers, this is part of, the curriculum here in the state of Wisconsin is to learn about the Native peoples. So I think to finally have that platform for them to share, especially for the students to share to that many individuals, is going to be fantastic.
I'll piggyback on a lot of what everyone said, but for our students, this is an amazing opportunity. So in order to help the state of Wisconsin, it's so much better to go and learn instead of just reading a book, right? So if we can be part of developing that in other places and keep it here too as well, that would be great. So I would say he left too soon too.
All right.
No comment.
I want to just add one more thing and I should have said this, earlier, but it would be great to start seeing another teacher or two, another staff member, doesn't have to be a teacher, but really start to working with Mr. Ryan on how to keep carrying on this tradition of Prescott. So, and opportunities like having a teacher go with him would be great too. So, Jeff Ryan is a champion of this, and it's amazing, and we just want to make sure that knowledge keeps carrying on how to do this.
All right. We can entertain a motion here.
I move to approve the Wisconsin Council for the Social Studies Overnight Conference.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item D is consider moving the March regular board meeting for spring break. Right? So what were we thinking, the 25th?
My birthday, March 11th.
Oh.
Fantastic. Cake?
Isn't that what we decided?
Yeah,
What kind of cake do you want?
Strawberry shortcake.
that's boring.
What?
Anyways, I think that is what we talked about, but Pat, you weren't here.
I have both 50-50 work
Yeah.
travel commitments on
Yeah.
both of those weeks. It is what it is. I won't know
Does-
until we get closer.
Is March 11th work for is there anything that we need to consider from an administrative perspective that needs more time, or is 11th work?
We'll make either one work, whether it's March 11th or the 25th. We'll talk about that a little bit when we go to the update, but we can get everything we need to do by the 11th. But the 25th would work as well, either from our point of view. Ashley, either one.
Of course, you're gonna nod your head on that, right? Yeah.
It's the 25th is a little easier on the finance department, but we can make the 11th
I
work.
can do the 25th too. I don't know about everybody else.
This one's entirely up to the board.
I think you,
I think I had an event,
You had
like something on the 25th, but I can figure it out.
Let's just do the 11th. That's what everybody kind of was leaning towards, and we'll go with that if that works. So the 11th work for you on the.
The 11th works for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then we should make a motion for that.
I move to approve March 11th, 2026 at 6 PM at the Prescott High School Library as a regular school board meeting for March 2026.
I'm
Sorry.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
What, me, yeah.
Item E. What? Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right. Item E is the Neola School Board Policies, second reading.
Board members have any questions about any of the policies that we read at the February meeting?
I didn't have any questions and nothing came my way. I know that you maybe got some information about police videos and stuff in regard to state laws, which we would have to comply with.
Yeah, one of the ones was actually part of the technical adjustments. They changed the Wisconsin state statute that basically says in any library in Wisconsin, if there's a crime and there's video cameras, the police are restricted to using only the video footage of the crime, and they can't use the video footage to look at what anybody's checking out or anything else like that. So it was actually a technical correction. They changed that state law just a little bit, and that state law appears word for word in our policy. So
All right. Vicki, anything on your end? Helen?
Nope.
No.
Yep. Not much from last month. Everything was discussed last month, so I'm good too. Anything before we take a motion here? Any questions, Pat? Anything? Okay.
No, thanks.
I move to accept the second reading of the noted policies with version 35.1.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. And then item F is the sign-on bonus for hard-to-hire non-certified staff.
So this one we have up on the screen and is in your packets, but we were looking at possibly doing this in June when we redo the whole handbook. But we find ourselves short of bus drivers. So if anybody is a stay-at-home parent and looking for a little bit of extra money, or somebody who's newly retired, or their neighbor is, Heather is waiting for your phone call at the bus garage, or Rick Montreal, or myself, or anybody. So we're looking to add at least one bus driver. This is a $500 one-time sign-on bonus, $100 on their first paycheck, $200 on their third, and $200 on their eighth. So it's a total of a $500 sign-on bonus. The thing is, we're only looking for it when we're short-staffed and we're having a hard-to-fill position. For example, we just hired earlier in the board meeting 2 excellent candidates for administrative assistants at Malone and at the high school. And we got a lot of candidates. We got about a dozen candidates, and we would have hired several of them. But we're having a hard time attracting bus drivers. and we're hoping just the $500 bonus will maybe give somebody a little look at Prescott over maybe some other job or some other place around here.
Vicki, any questions?
Nope.
Tanya?
I think this is a great idea. I see actually a lot of districts do this kind of stuff right now around us, and it gets people started with us at least. It's a little incentive. My understanding is that the way this would be designed and set up, I'm imagining in our handbook at some point, and then it would leave you with a little bit of leadway to kind of decide what positions this would apply to. So it doesn't always come back to us. The trust is that it's going to positions that we've been trying to fill and can't, and you'd make that decision.
Yeah, and that's kind of the goal, is to put it in the handbook in June, but we need bus drivers now, so we don't really want to wait. And yeah, we even note right in there that, we might use it for hiring bus drivers this spring and this fall. Knock on wood, we have, 20 of them beating down our door, and then we wouldn't use it for a hiring bonus. But we'd specifically state the sign-on bonus in the job posting.
Anything else?
With that being said, I'd be pretty comfortable, and I think this is a great idea for right now for bus drivers, and I think before, without coming back to the board, that we extend this to other positions. It should come back to the board until it gets put in the handbook, if it goes to other spots. Just because that handbook is gonna be worked on, in the near future anyways.
Yeah.
No, all good comments, Tanya. I would agree with them all. Unfortunately, a pretty important tool that we need to take advantage of. So the $500, while maybe a hit to the budget, would offset greater costs and cost risk if we don't have those positions filled. So it makes sense.
All right, the $500, that just was just kind of like, I'm just curious, like, what was the rationale for 500? I mean, why not 1,000? Just where do we start? Is that just kind of let's see where a spot is that people will be attracted to the extra cash, or?
I think you kind of nailed it on the head. We think $500 is, it's enough to get somebody started, somebody looking, maybe create a little more buzz out on Facebook or, anything, or around town, and get people talking without, our budget is a concern until the state budget gets fixed. It's always going to be something we have to look at.
Yeah, so if we weren't getting candidates we needed and we thought, well, maybe the signing bonus is too small, you'd have to come back to us. That would.
Correct, yeah, that would be a handbook change every time.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Anybody want to make a motion here?
I move to approve a sign-on bonus program for hard-to-hire, non-certified staff, effective February 18th, 2026. I may amend, though, future positions to be brought in front of the board prior to it being documented in the handbook.
Courtney, you got that?
I'll second.
All right. Everybody got that? We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Business is concluded. We are on information discussion with the first item is the report on school consolidation progress.
So, Mr. Smith and Miss McGee and Miss Peterson are the ones who run our gymnasiums and take care of everything, so they will be coming up and reporting. Matt, there is a clicker there. If you need me to open any of the links, you'll have to tell me to do that.
All right, thank you. Yeah, as we're moving along quickly here, we'll try to continue that trend with our presentation. Yeah, Angela and Penny and I just kind of got together. We talked through some stuff. We know, obviously, with the intermediate school, who knows what the future is going to bring, and just kind of looking at from community ed, PCR, from school athletics activities, how much do we really use that gym and amenities down there? So just wanted to give you some updates. A lot of the stuff you already know, but it might be some of the behind-the-scenes type things that you look at and go, oh, okay, this is something to consider as we make decisions moving forward. So if you have any clarity or points that you need, questions or more details, just let us know. That's why we're here. We can go ahead and go next slide if you want. I don't trust these things really. It'd be a game of ping pong back and forth from the first slide to the last slide. So obviously, currently we have the 4 gymnasiums. I talked to a few of our conference ADs. Jim, if you click on the square footage there for Middle Border Conference, about half of them got back to me. Just kind of something to look at for comparisons of where we're at in terms of square footage. We are on the lower end of the conference for different reasons there. Some of the schools, and not every gym is apples to apples. Some divide, better into 2 spaces. I know it's kind of hard to read there, but everyone should have the link. Get my cheaters out there. But basically, we're at the 4 gyms and just south of 34,000 square feet. You look at, St. Croix Central, Ellsworth there. At 6 gyms, St. Croix Central pushing 50,000 square feet. They're Baldwin, Woodville, very similar, their gym sizes, and so on and so forth. So we're already at the smaller size in terms of square footage, and I think overall our district does an outstanding job of maximizing that, though, with what we have. But that's kind of our current state, just a little comparison for some other schools to look at it there. You can go back to the slide there, but I just wanted to give everyone just an idea, kind of the reality of the situation, you guess. So you look at, if you go back, what our gym, what they're used for, competitions, athletic activities, kind of sans Malone. We really don't use the Malone gym for really truly any competitions that we're inviting other schools to. It's just not conducive for that in terms of space. But you look at our other gyms, there's always something going on, whether it's community ed, PCR, you name it. And that's after school. That's during the school. You look at like pickleball being used there at the intermediate gym, so on and so forth. But practices, rentals going on, dances, recitals across the board there. You look at like rentals. Like we had Prescott Wrestling Club this past weekend. They were up here at Sunday at the high school using our gym for a good portion of the day. You talk about PCR with tournaments. They're busy. So our gyms are getting used. A lot of good things going on and a plethora of activities, which is fun to see there. You can go to the next slide there.
Mr. Smith, before,
Yes.
You can definitely go, but that square footage, did it include Malone Gym when you
Yes,
showed that? Okay.
that's our 4 gyms. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's all of them there. So basically, what we have going on, and you look at our gyms there. We linked. You can check on. We don't have to look at this now, but just for your per use. So I know I shared with Jim just a snapshot from a week in the fall, a week in the winter, and the week in the spring of what our gyms are getting used for. And you look at the intermediate school, things that are happening there, and you just kind of who's using it and when, what it looks like. So community ed, Penny was able to run a report for 2025 over 1,300 hours. They use the intermediate gym there for different things. You look at for school athletics activities, a lot of things we're doing at the intermediate gym there. It's volleyball practices for 7th grade in the fall, and then during the winter it's basketball game stuff going on down there. You name it, different practices, different groups is using it, from our 3rd grade or 4th grade PCR all the way up to once in a while our C team boys basketball team is down there. And so you look at things that are going on in the spring. Then a lot of PCR usage is there. We have the 2 batting cages at the intermediate gym. We have the stage, which is nice. You can do pitching and stuff. They do their arm care up there. It's just a nice spot to sprawl out for them. But that's kind of just some basic uses that we have in terms of events, practices across the board there. And then just an example as we'll go through, you can take a look, just like a fall weekday. What would be a snapshot of what's going on in the intermediate gym? Like we said, we got pickleball going on there a lot of times. That's our big community ed use down there, our community coming in, utilizing that space. Then you have like some 7th grade volleyball, for example, right after school practicing. Then you get a PCR volleyball team, and then you get community ed basketball going on down there. People coming in, Pat Block and those other athletes getting down there who still got it. Getting after it. Mike Matzik's mad I didn't say him. I'll get to him later. Yeah. But that's just an example there of kind of what's going on in the fall. And then the next slide here, we'll kind of talk about just an example in the winter and in the spring. It's a lot of the same activities, but just different seasons. I should say the same age kids, just different seasons. And if you look at it, it's getting used a good portion of the evening. Right after school, groups are down there. A lot of times it's school-age kids till later in the night. It's our PCR teams for different sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, softball, and then adult activities going on later in the night there. But the gym is being used quite a bit. Like we said, we take advantage, we maximize our space there. Any questions so far as we're going?
Any questions, anyone?
The only one I would think about is like when we're these examples, like at the 7 to 9 adult volleyball, could that be moved to another gym?
If we need, yeah, we'll kind of talk more about that. If we get in a
That's what I
crunch
thought.
that we don't have the space, we got to be creative.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a nice to have right now. And I know our community members, as Penny will talk about too, they really appreciate it. You know, you look at schools, we're the hub of the community. To be able to offer something like that in town, where they don't have to drive to a neighboring community, to be able to do that, I think that builds camaraderie. It's just fun for people to be able to do that. A luxury, we could say, but yeah, if we don't have in our portfolio the intermediate gym, we'll try to offer what we can, but some things may have to be put on the back burner. Yeah.
And I guess I just wanted to comment too on that, which is that one of the benefits of being able to offer space for community organizations and stuff is that not just people with kids in the school district pay taxes.
Yeah.
And so this is really an amenity that, and I've heard some comments like, oh, do we need a gym for community stuff? Well, they pay taxes too, and the opportunities for them to be able to use that within their own community is an important piece too.
Yeah, you hit the nail on that. It's a great thing to be able to offer, and I know Penny can allude to it. It gets people use it. They benefit from it. It's a social thing, a wellness thing, and just an all in all a very positive contribution that we can help them basically offer, I guess, an opportunity there. If you go to the next slide, we'll let the experts here, kind of Angela and Penny come up and kind of talk through. We just kind of put together, I'll call it a laundry list, kind of a running doc of what are we using in terms of the intermediate school with the gym there, and then, hey, if it were to be taken away from us, what are some things that would really impact us, and how would we have to be flexible? So I'll let them talk on that there.
Hello, I'm Angela McGee with Prescott Community Rec. So Prescott Community Rec uses the intermediate school gym for a wide variety of things. September through October is a limited use for me. I only run 5th and 6th grade volleyball, which is just usually 1 or 2 teams, so it's a space that they can kind of go anywhere. October through February is my busy season. It's a heavy use for basketball. This year I have 18 teams of basketball. So it's 4th through 8th grade used there in multiple time slots throughout the night. February through April is an extra heavy into high school sports that we use with middle school as well. That takes up that space, and then continuing on with our basketball teams, and then overlapping with our spring and spring seasons for baseball and softball. That gym does house our 2 batting cages, so losing that gym would have to find another space for those. Without the gym, would really push all of my practices later into the evening. It would have to be a coordination with Matt and I and with Penny to just make sure that we're utilizing the spaces as we need it, but it would push them later into the evening, probably push them to a 1 time a week practice, and then focusing back on the weekend, which right now they kind of are getting 2 times a week practices to try to keep families to be able to have their weekends to them. With having YMCA at the Malone, it kind of eliminates that space, especially for me to run with big teams, to put 2 teams into a gym. It just doesn't allow the space, and then having them in there, we don't have access to that till 6:30. And then winter and spring, this spring we just tonight starts spring volleyball for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade girls, which would have to be an eliminated program in the spring just due to space, to make sure that I can have the 15 teams of softball and baseball that will have this year their winter indoor practice space. So that's really all for PCR.
Hello, I'm Penny Peterson with Prescott Community Education, and our usage on the left there. As stated, we have pickleball, which really fluctuates nightly based on when the gym's being used for other PCR and school activities. So that's kind of the generally right now. I mean, that's like the most they use the gym as those. Tuesdays and Thursdays, the daytime, that's when our senior gathering place is down at the intermediate school playing pickleball. We have adult volleyball there every Monday night, and then we have intro to volleyball for our 4th through 6th graders after school, mid-April through May, and then the hitting program for intermediate baseball, softball, which is on Sunday afternoons. Number of participants you can see down there. Pickleball offers 9 sessions a week. 4 of them regularly max out, with others getting 8 to 16 players a time slot. The average for adult volleyball is 14 to 20 people playing. Our intro to volleyball last year had 20. Registrations are still going on now for this year. And the hitting program had up to 15 on any given Sunday. So what does that mean for looking forward if we don't have the gym? Community pickleball weeknight start times would shift later after PCR, so it could be 8 p.m. or later for a start time. It would be reduced weekend hours, because now everything that happens on the weekends or during the week is now going to be shifting to some weekends, and now we're taking away a gym, so just all of the gym space is going to be tighter. So they could have a lot more reduced time just through the whole week and weekend. And then the gathering place pickleball would most likely have to be discontinued, because the gyms would be utilized all day long with our condensing to 3 schools. Adult volleyball, again, might need to move from Monday nights, or again start after 8 p.m. or whenever we can work out things with the school and PCR schedules. Not sure, again, with the batting cages, what that will look like, and if we'll be able to continue to run the hitting clinics, depending on how tight the gym space is, wherever those batting cages end up. And then again, just when you're condensing everything down to 3 gyms, everything that we easily run now with like little kids indoor soccer, or our open gyms for a variety of different kind of open gyms, adult basketball, all that would now be condensed. So we might have to, if the schedules don't work, have to cut some of those programs, or again push them way back into the evening, which is going to obviously affect people wanting to come do things starting at 8 or 8:30 at night. So that's yeah.
Next slide, this kind of talks about school athletics and activities there. What are we doing at the intermediate school? During the fall, our 7th grade volleyball team practices down there, and then some matches get played down there, like our C team. If we have an overflow of events in the fall, we'll host a C team volleyball match down there. Similar with the winter, our 7th grade basketball teams both play down there, boys and girls, and then overflow practices as needed when gym space is tight. Our C team boys basketball will practice down there on some nights and play some games when needed, when we have, like I said, a plethora of activities going on with that. Springtime, it gets busy down there. Our C team baseball team, and then our varsity and JV pitchers and catchers utilize that really heavily to start their season before they can get outside. We thought, looking this week would be right away. Now they get snow again, who knows? But so that gets heavy usage March, tickling into April there, depending on the Mother Nature in the spring. And then on non-game days, that's where they start for pitching warm-ups and arm care. And then working with our golf team, that's one thing. They're fundraising for a golf simulator. We're just trying to find space for it, and the stage down there would be a natural spot for it. That's when, talking with Coach Hamilton, that'd be a spot we'd look at with that potentially, to kind of have just an area they could do that is secure, can be monitored and utilize that there. So that's kind of our views with it and our reality for usage right now. If we were not to have it, there would be some foreseeable changes. We really don't have a third option to host events in terms of competition. Like I said, Malone just really isn't conducive for it. So scheduling basketball, volleyball, we might have to go on the road a little bit more, and that would just be added transportation costs there. Hopefully those people are taking that $500 sign-on bonus then, and we can get to where we need to be. We need to stagger some potential practices, so it wouldn't just be volleyball practices after school in the fall. We're pretty jammed up with our high school team here in the high school gym. We've talked about utilizing other gyms for practice there, but our 8th graders are at the middle school, our 7th graders are at the intermediate. What do we do if we don't have that intermediate gym? We're probably going, an early practice, a 3:30 to 5 type thing, and then a late practice, a 5 to 6:30. And then we talked a lot about the batting cages. We'd have to put up some more batting cages in our other schools just to be able to handle our spring sports, softball, baseball, to have that space for that. And then I talked to St. Joe's. They're redoing their gym floor. They're going to put a wood floor in there. And then New Adventures had their new addition with a partial gym at their school. I talked to them about, if we get in a pinch, renting or borrowing their space for practices or whatever it may be there. So that would be, if we don't have the intermediate gym, how do we be solution seeking with that? Next slide there. This kind of just recaps, what are some of the biggest impacts overall. Number one would just be the time stresses there. Things we could just push later. And so it'd be weeknights that we'd have things possibly going to, adult activities, maybe going to 10 at night. You could have some PCR practices, just, gym space wise, a PCR basketball team. Instead of going, 6 to 7:30, now you're maybe going 8 to 9:30. And that's kind of the reality of the situation if we did not have that gym. Other things to consider, do we just have to cut some programs? I shouldn't say cut programs, but maybe limit our offerings with what we cannot have. Just there's only so many hours in the day and so much space to have there. Wear and tear on the other gyms would ramp up. That usage would be much higher for them. It's already high, but you take one out of the portfolio, it's going to get used more. And then, you look at groups that want to rent or utilize our space. I talked about Prescott, wrestling club this past weekend. It's going to be tough to try to, build revenue with outside groups coming in if we just don't have that space to rent out. And that's things that, not so much in the last 2 years when I was here, my first stint though, we'd have club teams come in for volleyball and for basketball looking to rent space, just to utilize it. And we're always welcome hosts. And, it's a way to build some revenue that we then put back into our facilities. So those are some impacts overall that would, be at the forefront if we did lose that gym there. And then kind of it summarizes here in the next slide, basically kind of everything put together. We talked about the wear and tear on the other gyms, everything just getting pushed back or our offerings being limited, PCR maybe only being able to practice once a week instead of that twice a week. We got to add stuff to the other gyms, whether it's, new baskets, cages, you name it. And then I talked about, the lost revenue rentals, the stage potentially for the golf simulator. And that's just, our other gyms, what an example would be of the schedule with usage there, which we kind of talked about already before. And then I guess in closing, if we go to the last slide here, if you were to ask us three, our input, our suggestions, with anything, we're going to be supportive of any decisions that need to be made. We'll be positive and solution seeking, looking to create opportunities for the community in general. What would we like to see? We'd like to see the intermediate gym stay in our portfolio if that's possible. If we do need to get rid of that, we'll find our way to, get our groups out there, whether it's renting space, adding amenities to our other gyms, just to make sure that we can offer the right things that we have and not fall off in that regard with our current offerings. And then we would strongly suggest, if we lost that gym, how do we replace that gym down the road? If we add something here to the high school campus off of our gym to, maybe scratch that itch as we get going. Because we will definitely see the time crunch there and the wear and tear in other facilities. So it is something that we'd like to remedy as soon as possible, being realistic with that and being fiscally responsible, I guess you could say. I guess that basically wraps up kind of what I had. Do you guys have anything else to add? Yeah. I guess questions are points of clarity then.
Helen, do you have any questions on this? Comments?
The only one I have is great layout, by the way, but I don't see any morning practices. And I know that other schools around us also utilize the morning. And I know we also at the high school have no credit classes. I'm going to say it wrong, or 0 credit, whatever that meet in the morning.
Yep.
So I would challenge us maybe to look at that, maybe a 6:30 practice or a 7 practice, and then
That would be something, yeah. If we need it. And there's been coaches that talked about it before. A lot of it is just finding transportation. Like if that's when our practices are, kids will get here. The parents will find a way, ride share, you name it. That would probably be a reality that, hey, we got a 6:15 practice because that's when you can get in the gym. So like our C team basketball right now, they're kind of all over the board with their practices. Coaches' work schedule is a little bit different. Hey, could they come in and go 6:15 to 7:45? And, kids are heading to class from there, and it's, they're good for the day, and it probably help them get to bed a little bit earlier too. So that's the thing with being solution seeking. We're gonna have to be creative. Yep. And that's a great example of that there.
I had the same thought. That's how my volleyball practice was in high school. The boys had basketball in the afternoon, and us girls got volleyball at 6 in the morning. So that was just something else that I hadn't seen it on there, and I mean, it's awful. It's not a lot of fun, but you do what you got to do, I guess.
If it's what you need to do, then you find a way. Yep. Yeah.
But the amount of other activities that happen happen over there, and then the things that supplement baseball and softball. And knowing that that's there, dependent, the weather in the spring is hit or miss, and to not have that space then for those practices, I could see that really kind of jamming us up somewhere, that there could be some, all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, we got to change schedules tomorrow.
Yeah, it'd be a snag with that.
Tanya?
Penny, be honest, is there actually a report that you ran for the hours, or did you count them up by hand?
I actually called our schools and they ran.
Okay, awesome. And I was thinking that's, 1,353 hours is a lot of counting. And when I looked at that, I thought, essentially what we need to do within our system is if we lose one gym, which already were the smallest that you got feedback from, in our area. We're also a smaller district, but really when I look at we all have kids, or many of us with high school sports, we have comparable amount of teams as other schools, so it's about more the teams versus just the number of kids. But those 1,353 hours have to basically fit in here or our other gym spaces, and it's really just looking at that system and is that even something we can do? And I'm going to say it's probably not going to be super feasible. There's going to have to be cuts, there's going to be reduced times, and I think that's something that we're going to have to consider as a board, as a community. And to be blunt and honest, what that does is it impacts some of our sports teams down the road. If we're down to one practice, I would imagine that impacts PCR fees if you're only practicing once versus 2 or 3 times a week. It impacts our community gathering spaces as well as other community and health, all that kind of stuff. So it is impactful, and it's something that we definitely have to consider. And I know the other side of that coin is we have a budget that's the state's not helping us with at all, and so we have to also be creative and come up with some solutions too. So I really appreciate this. I have felt the pain of having to fight for gym space, and I couldn't imagine that with 1,353 more hours to fight within, but thanks for that work.
Hey, Matt, for those who don't know, not to put you on the spot, why don't we use Malone as why isn't it more used for older age or in game?
Just too tight a space. If you were to put, back when we did have games there, you had the one row of bleachers all the way across, and feet were already in play. It's space-wise. Yeah. It's great. The Malone gym is fantastic for the third graders because that's the only hoops we can lower, and they play at 8-foot hoops, so they utilize that a ton. It's right now kind of that auxiliary gym for us that if everything else is booked, that, hey, we can put you in Malone as gym space to use. It's not it's just space. It's space. It serves its purpose for what we need when we need it. Obviously, would we want more space? Yeah, absolutely. But it just comes down to it's too tight.
And additional challenges too, because that space is used during the school program day as well, right?
Yep. And then Y Care is in there till 6:30, 6:15, 6:30 every night. So to host an event in there, hey, we could, but it's we can't set up till 6:30. So you're looking at 7 o'clock start. And but no, what it's built for, it gets used. It's busy. It's busy.
And we've all coached up here, a lot of us, softball and baseball, and you can't use even the intermediate gym after probably 3rd or 4th grade because it's not even far enough for them to throw in there and stuff. So I can imagine that the elementary gym even smaller.
All right. Thanks, Matt. I'll just summarize why we asked for this, why this was done. So with the decision last time, how many months ago was that the decision to consolidate into 3 instructional buildings? The intermediate school will be the building that we will look to. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to, possibly sell it? Possibly. It's amazing that this item on the agenda. I haven't gotten a text message or a phone call in, I don't know, a year probably. Not even for the no offense, Jim, but not even for the superintendent. And so all of a sudden, this shows up on the agenda, and I get text messages about why are we talking about the gym? Are we going to get rid of the gym? So we're doing our diligence to find out just how well we're utilizing our space. That to me is why we did the exercise of and thank you for putting in all the effort. I mean, obviously you guys did a lot of work here, all the manual counting and everything here. But a lot of us have cautioned that anybody that doesn't think we have enough gym space, come to one of the PCR scheduling meetings for baseball, basketball, or softball. Just watch how the scheduling gets done and how people fight for gym space. We are lucky that we have a choice as a board to make if we were to be put in a position where we have a building that is an asset that might be worth selling someday, and we have a choice to make at some point. Hopefully we do. Maybe that puts us in a good position. For me personally, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the board here, for me personally, I think this is a non-starter. I think we need the gym. So any deal that we make, we have to figure out a way to have another gym put somewhere else, or keep the one that we have somehow. That's my personal feelings. Now I might be missing something, but that's my stance on it right now, I guess, is the way I look at it. And we got time to ponder, and there's a lot of what ifs that can happen from now until then. So, but appreciate you guys putting in the effort, Matt. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Anybody else have any comments, thoughts? No. All right, let's move on. Item B, CSA declining enrollment session report.
So kind of to tie all of us back to where we were and why we're in this situation. WASBO, the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials, came up to Chippewa Falls on the 4th and put on a declining enrollment session. Myself, Mr. Kozmowski, and Ashley Bowe went to the meeting. It was a good session. The morning was a lot of the stuff we've been talking about for the last 6 months. How the fact that they decoupled inflation in 2008, and we'd have about over $3.5 million more to spend if we just went back and coupled us to inflation. We're getting $3,920 more. They spent a lot of time reviewing the state funding model that was designed in 1993 and kind of specifically designed for growing populations. And then actually, the APL staff that did our population study was there, and they talked a lot about population trends. School-age children is down about 6% statewide, 7% nationwide. 315 out of our 421 districts have declining enrollment, so we are not alone by any stretch of the means. It's like 74% of the districts. There are 60,000 less students than there were just a decade ago. Over the last few years since COVID, homeschooling has been up 43.7%. That's a big number. It's still under 10,000 statewide, but it does add to that 60,000 number and pushes it up to almost 70,000 students there. But speaking of funding, and if you follow what's going on in Madison at all with the special education funding, the two areas that are growing in population is students with disabilities is projected to be up by 6% since 2029, and English language learners are expected to be up 10% by 2029, both of which cost more money to educate. And then in the afternoon, we spent a lot of time in groups. Superintendents met, business managers met, teaching and learning met as groups, principals met as groups, and we were able to go through a bunch of questions and kind of work the problem a little bit. How do we define the problem here in Prescott? What are some of our funding options? Fund 80, as we just got done talking about PCE and PCR. A lot of that is funded through Fund 80 because that's community type events. We already have good partnerships with our early childhood and 4K, but those are areas we'll continue to look at how to increase our student enrollment and increase our funding. And then we discussed how do we engage engage the community? How do we promote ourselves to the community? And it was a good probably hour and a half of these meetings that really allowed us to build working relationships with other districts that are our size. There was probably 12 to 14 districts there. I'm looking at Ashley's nodding at me, so that's good. And so what we want to do next is, again, the APL study shows that we're in declining enrollment over the next decade. Anywhere from we're at 1148 as of second Friday in January, projected to go anywhere down to as low as 990 or right around 1100. We need to examine what the staffing impacts of that'll be. It's very simple. If you look at 25 kids per grade level, and we have 75 kids in first grade and 100 kids in fifth grade, we only need 3 first grade teachers and we need 4 fifth grade teachers. Exploring how to promote the community. One thing Ashley and I have done in the last couple weeks is we met with a couple groups that are developing possible pending city improvement, possible developments here in town. One thing they asked for was some type of promotional flyer. Mr. Kozmowski has already written 99% of that just by pulling out of all the great news that he gives us every time testing comes around and every time the state report cards come around. We are, in my opinion, the best district in western Wisconsin, and we'll gladly help anybody promote us to potential home buyers. Can we retain preschool age children? We have quite a few children who birth through 3, birth through 4, go to some of our daycares as their parents head over to Minnesota to work. Can we keep some of those in the district? We're going to look at exploring a survey of our community members. One of the things they talked a lot about is not trying to chase down the people that you're losing, because it's really hard to turn them around. One thing for Prescott is we do not have a hockey team and we do not have a gymnastics team, and we know that impacts ours. So instead, focus on what do you value about being a Cardinal? Why are you staying here? What do you love about our district? And then continue to manage our social media outreach. I do want to make a note that all the pictures on today's presentation is from the Prescott Facebook page, and if anybody's listening on YouTube or in the audience, are you following our Facebook page? Because that's where we talk about all the great things we do. But it was a good session. It really helped us kind of focus on the problem and gave us a day to really talk about what can we do to help our declining enrollment, given that, frankly, human beings are not having as many children in the United States as they have in the past.
Questions, comments, Tanya?
I really don't have comments. I appreciate that you went to that. I think it's conversations that, I mean, honestly, it's just everywhere we go in education in Wisconsin, these conversations are happening. We all went to sessions in Milwaukee that had very similar conversations. So the engagement piece, I think, is where we need to put some effort in. And it's interesting, Mike, when you made the comment that, like, you didn't get messages until the gym was on there. And it's like, yeah, but we're talking about closing an educational building altogether, but yet that's what got out there and stuff. And so it just reminds me of the engagement and how do we engage different groups of people to, I mean, really understand what's going on within our buildings in our state, honestly. So yeah, I appreciate you guys going. I think it's good dialogue, good conversations, and it's an uphill battle right now we're facing.
Yeah, no questions.
Vicki?
Well, I'm kind of piggybacking off of we're getting text messages because of the gym and what's going on there. And that's where I think that question of why do you like Prescott? Why do you stay here? Why are your kids here? What do you like about our schools? And this apparently is a hot topic, and it's great for parents. It's great for kids. We've got all this stuff available. Then that's the sort of stuff that, yes, for a realtor, we find out what the community really likes, why they're here, and that's the sort of stuff that we put out there. And to have that relationship, then, if we do have these developers get the go-ahead to do what they're going to do, then yeah, that's where we kind of put it out there. Because a little conversation that I had with at my CISA meeting last week was one of the board members was approached by someone in their community and said, well, why don't we just put billboards out and say, hey, come here? And she's like, and what does that do? We just take them from another district to come to our district. That doesn't help anybody out. Like, you're robbing from one district to fill your seats, but then they're losing their funding. So the creative solutions have to be, how do we get them here and keep them here with especially our proximity to the Twin Cities? Like, how can we get them to move over here? Buying their first house, how can we get them to come to here instead of buying a house over in Lakeville or something like that? Let's try and get them to Prescott. So it looks like you guys had a good conversation and a good day, so.
Great. Vicky? Helen?
Yes. You want me to-
No, that's good, we're good.
I guess I'm piggybacking on a lot of what y'all said, but declining enrollment is real, and the state needs to step up. So I think on top of, being having these conversations with the community, really talking to the community members about getting up to Madison, down to Madison, over to Madison. Not good at that. And really having those conversations on why are we not funding our public schools like we should? Why are we not? You say that you value that, well then show that. So having those conversations along with, Prescott's where you want to come, and this is why you want to come here, but also here's a bigger thing. Go have that conversation in Madison and talk about us. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jim. I think everything was said. If there's one thing that I would say would be that would break my stance as a non-starter on a gym would be declining enrollment. That would be about it. You know what I mean? So like if we lost a lot of students, but that's not the goal. Moving on. Item C, school building update.
This will be on the agenda for many, many months to come, I assume. Over the last few months, we have done listening sessions at the intermediate school, the middle school, and the high school, just kind of as a preliminary opportunity for staff to ask questions. And I want to give you a summary of those. We kind of broke it down into 4 areas: academic model and curriculum, staff collaboration and licensing, facilities and operational logistics, and transparency and communication. And that first one, academic model and curriculum, really is what we talked about last month being stage 1, and the first thing we need to look at. Staffing and schedules and licensing and how that's all going to work will be a lot of work over the summer and into the fall, along with any type of facilities and operational logistics. And then in the winter, we'll start to get, late fall, early winter, we'll start to get to schedules for next year. And then the theme of transparency and communication came up as well. So our academic model and curriculum, some of the things that kind of were the big ones at the listening sessions is defining the model. We knew this was going to be a big topic. The staff across all models, all levels talked about that. Is 6th and 7th grade, 6th, 7th grade going to stay a middle school feel, or is it going to go to elementary? Is 4th and 5th going to go to elementary? And one of the, I'm sure, frustrating things for all the staff is a lot of times I got to the point and my comment was, that's a future discussion, future decision. But we wanted to get through this first round and get everybody a chance to talk. The middle school staff specifically requested building-specific surveys. We did a survey of all staff, but now as we start moving forward, Mr. Kozmowski, Mr. Igo, and Mr. Figge will be doing more surveys of just their buildings and running meetings for that. High school integration to the 8th grade, we knew that was a topic. The staff also brought up that topic. Can we keep them completely to themselves? No, Can we limit them to being as mostly with 8th graders as possible? I think that's something we're looking into, and we'll do our best, but they will not be their own separate building or anything else like that in the school, just for the simple fact that the 8th grade science room is the current Spanish room, and that's not really by a pod, but we're going to do our best to it. A lot of questions about, do they get high school credit? No, they're not going to get high school credit. We don't have any plans at this time to change the current credit structure, but it will bring back a lot of the elective courses. Our middle school, Mr. Tomley's doing his best to run a STEM program and out of the room he has, but it definitely does not have the facilities of this big building, this big beautiful building with a wood shop, drafting room, metal shop, etc. And then again, 4th and 5th grade, are they going to remain single teacher sections or transfer more to a middle school multi-teacher departmental model like the middle school? And I will say a lot of this also kind of ties into that declining enrollment too. As our enrollment declines, what's going to make the most sense going forward down the road. So the solutions we come up for 27, 28, the world's changing. It's probably not going to be the exact same structure in 31, 32. Staffing, collaborations, and licensing. Everybody loves being a Prescott Cardinal. Everybody wants to stay here. But the question always comes is this consolidation going to cost anybody their job? I was pretty honest. It's not the adjustment from building to building, but as we do have declining enrollment, will that eventually drive staff reductions? Again, when you're graduating classes, high school classes of 99 this year, I think, and first grade classes have 67 in them. As that goes through, there is going to be some challenges. Staff are concerned. Our 90 minutes that we have for early release Monday for staff to work together is incredibly valuable. They're concerned about how that collaboration is going to work if 8th grade's up at the high school and 4th and 5th is at the middle school. We currently do a lot of traveling on those days, and it works. It's just going to have to exist in a different form. And then there are questions about whether the middle school teachers will be asked to teach high school classes or high school teachers asked to be teaching 8th grade classes due to their licensing. I don't have an answer for that one for you on February 18th, but it's something Mr. Igo, Mr. Kozmowski, Mr. Figge, and I are looking into, and that'll be something we really hash out this summer going into next year. There is some concern, about how will our buildings take place. We do have a lot of interventions. One of the reasons we're the best school in western Wisconsin is because we have interventions. We're currently working on the maps, trying to figure out exactly where everything will work out. But we're only going to be anywhere 75 to 85%, and that 85% will only be for the first couple of years. We do have the advantage of having a lot of classrooms that are used for a couple hours a day and then sit empty for a couple hours a day. And how do we work that out? So if we have, I'm just making this up off the top of my head, but if we got a room that's used first, second, and third hour, and then a room down the hallway that's open first, second, and third, but used fourth, fifth, and sixth, can we combine those into one room, and how will that work? I did get a couple questions, Mr. Matzik, from people about the Great Rivers project that was in the paper. If that goes through, how many students will that add? I reached out to the APL lab staff. They're looking at about 100 to 125 students. So basically that would keep us right around where we're at now, around 1150. I'd love it if I had a crystal ball and could tell you where we're going to be at in 10 years. But I'll remind the board that we are looking at comfortably with 25 kids in a room being able to put 1420 in 3 buildings. The gym debate, I don't need to talk much about because we do know, we just had a great report on that back on January 26th. Staff expressed some frustration viewing this as are we focused too much on the gym? My personal opinion is that Matt, Angie, and Penny did a great job of talking about why that's probably not the case. One thing I didn't think about until I talked to Joan, moving the 8th grade to the high school, we're going to have to move a couple thousand books. And we're going to have to figure out how to rearrange this room to have shelving for an 8th grade section in the high school and what that's going to look like. I always threw out in stage 4 all the questions we didn't think of, and Joan came to me with that one in February, so that was great. One group really talked about why Plan C was chosen by the board in December, when, quote, everyone they talked to didn't support it. We took a look at the results and we shared it with that small group. It was a very small group. Everybody in that group really weren't big fans of Plan C. But overall, Plan C, when we polled the staff, it was by far the most popular one, which Plan C is 4th and 5th to the middle school, 8th to the high school. It was a unanimous recommendation by the administration, and the majority of teachers were also on board with it. Timeline, again, we expect to finalize our academic models by the end of this year. Personal schedules tentatively ready by December. High school really has to get those by December. The other grades can wait a little bit longer. And then we're going to start with 8th grade level meetings. We're going to start with building level meetings. And we're going to get to the point where we're having PLC times, department specific meetings. Science is looking at possibly changing the order in which they teach science. That would be a big one to tackle right now, going into 27, 28, because that just makes the most sense. But we actually kind of need to tackle that going into 26, 27 to see when that change is going to make. Mr. Kozmowski is on top of that. But again, those granular level decisions will come next fall. Again, the population spike. My note cut off there for a reason, but we're looking at 0.4 to 0.7 kids per building in that in the Great River development. So if you figure half a kid, to make the math easy, 242 buildings, half a kid is about 120 kids, is the best that the state experts can give us. And then questions about whether 7-12 grade configuration was ever seriously considered as an alternative to current plans. I'm going to be honest, it really wasn't, because when we started looking at room numbers and room sizes at the high school, just putting 8th grade in this building is going to make it tighter than it has been. It's not going to make it tight by any stretch of the means, but that's going to be an adjustment. So 2 grades together probably weren't going to happen. So our next steps. Mr. Figge and Mr. Igo are leading an 8th grade meeting tomorrow. Sit down and talk with them about their concerns. I'll be in the back on listening on that one. We got a second evaluation. Jared Murphy from Remax in Ellsworth walked through the building with Mike Hoyke and Adam Roll yesterday with me. He hopes to have in a couple weeks another evaluation to us to kind of give us a second look at the TELUS evaluation. The admin team is working on all the program structure stuff that we've been talking about. It's a big topic of both our regular admin meetings and some principal level meetings. And at the same time, Mr. Kozmowski and I are really looking at our ongoing staffing levels. How many students does every teacher teach every day? How is that balanced across buildings? Is the workload as balanced as possible? We're always going to have those smaller classes and those largest classes, but are we doing everything to make sure that what's fair, what's going on at Malone is similar to what's going on at the intermediate middle school, and what's going on at the high school will never be exactly balanced, but do we get in as balanced as possible. I hope to have a report for you in March when I get that next evaluation, and then possibly, depending upon what the board tells me here, We could either talk about a potential sale as a business item in March, or we could do that in April. Like I said, we're going to continue to do all those studies. We're shooting to have those ready by April if we can. It might be as late as May. I want to give our administration team as much time as possible because honestly, they're still running buildings, teaching kids, dealing with discipline behavior, balancing their budget, everything else like that. But we're going to shoot for April, but I want to reserve the right to say that's at the May board meeting.
Pat, do you have any questions here or comments?
Yeah, none. Joking. So, thanks for all the information. I'm really glad that Jim, we've had a chance to talk at these depths with the staff, and got more coming. I don't have a ton of questions today. I think we all know what the concerns are. We're doing a great job. We're following the process. Help me understand. So we say report in March on potential sale. You had developed a timeline in the recent past on the decision points we have to make. Where do we think we're currently at right now?
So I want to be clear on this. I'm brand new to Prescott. I've been here 8 months, so this is, but my job is to present you with options. So my hope in March is to sit down. We heard from Matt and his team today about the gym space. That's the board's decision. And then I hope to be able to bring you in March another evaluation of the building, of what the intermediate school is like. And then it's up to the board whether we talk then or not, but my procedure would be to put out a request for proposals from various realtor groups, any realtor group, commercial realtor groups, regular realtor groups, obviously the two that did the evaluations for us, and see where they're at. From my understanding, I'm not a realtor, but from my understanding, it is possible to list the building as selling the building and requiring them to lease the gym back to us, or asking for a building for a high enough valuation that we could possibly add a gym onto the high school like Matt suggested, or both, and then see what kind of options we get. I mean, the best thing about this process is if we don't get an offer we like, the board has the option to say no, we'll just hang on to the building.
Yeah, and I guess thanks for saying that. We're not ready to make that decision, but I just wondered, there's no harm in putting it up for sale, and see what happens, right? We don't have to accept anything that we don't want. Another question is, let's just say we were to sell it, right? And someone coming with a great offer tomorrow. Are there any strings attached to the money that we would be bringing in? I mean,
like it goes into certain funds or something?
Does it have to go to a certain funds, or do we have access to it right away? Can we do
I have a meeting set up later this week to discuss that, to make sure that it isn't tied to something specific. And I will be able to update you once we have that.
I mean, just because I think we talked about this too. I mean, even if there were zero strings attached, all right, if you were to sell it tomorrow and say we had to replace the gym, I mean, that's a 2-year, that's a 2-year away thing. So if there are strings attached, right, it would potentially even be longer.
Yeah, Ashley's been working hard to try to get this meeting set up with Quarles for a while. And with how board meetings fall, it just have, the assessment on the property was yesterday. This one's coming up late next week. So that's why, it's up to the board whether, in March we put it on as a business item to discuss it, or if the board just wants to get all the information in March and then have it as an April item. We can go either way.
And then I think the last thing floating through my head is even if we decide to put it up for sale, right, and with the idea that we can always decline an offer, I believe we have to have some point of community input prior to doing so, or saying that we're going to do so. So we should probably add that to the timeline. That's it for me for right now.
Do you have? Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you had asked about timeline, and I was just kind of looking in my packets from the past, but you had shared a timeline with us early on, and so maybe just a reconnection of that timeline, and I think that's something that you were kind of asking a little bit about too, is where we're at with that process. I just took a lot of notes during that presentation, and I have a lot of questions and comments and thoughts and wonderings, but really I think it's better to be served at a workshop. I think we're gonna need to have eventually before we make decisions on what our next steps are. And it sounds like you're kind of shooting for around that April time, maybe May time to kind of make some decisions. So I do think we're gonna need a workshop once we know more. At that workshop, because this all really began with, we have a budget problem. And so at that workshop, I'm gonna need to see, and I'm saying this really early, so it probably will take a while, but I'm gonna need to see what our budget's gonna look like without, and I know we've talked about it, but like really see what it's gonna look like for the next 5 years without a sale, with consolidating, like all of those kind of scenarios. So I'm imagining there's multiple scenarios of what that budget looks like. Sorry. Yeah.
Working prepared on that.
Awesome. Okay. And I think those are kind of those conversations. And I really like that you talked about, like, we don't want to decrease staff, but we have a budget problem. And I also just want to be honest in the fact that we already know that just shuttering that building is not solving the budget problem. We already looked at that model. And so, like, there is more that has to happen as well. And so those are kind of the models. Like, I want to save the gym. Totally. That's my preference. But, like, if I look at that model and go, we have to cut 20% of our staff or sell the gym, like, that's a no-brainer for me there. But also, we need to see that stuff. And that's like a work session kind of conversation.
I guess the one part of this that is really tied into a potential sale of the building is what would the timeline be for on the city side? Because that whole area changes. That is no longer than a school. Mm-hmm. That becomes something different. And what does a potential buyer, for their timeline, what does that look like? And what is the city's timeline for approvals and
you're talking zoning essentially.
Zoning stuff. Yeah, because that changes on our end. I mean, it changed last time when we tried this. We had someone who was interested, and there was the whole hiccup with the city and the parking and the permits and just how it was all handled. So I think for any of this, there has to be kind of that communication then with the city, because it is going to be changing the entire zoning of that whole area.
Well, Vicki, I think what you're saying, so that would be up to the developer to get zoning approval, but it'll affect the timeline.
It affects our timeline.
Yeah, because the sale would be contingent upon that approval.
Yeah. So I don't know what that looks like. That's just something I thought of, so,
That's a lot. I just want to start with staffing wise. I understand, especially because I am a teacher. I get it, the unknown of bringing an 8th grade or bringing a 7th grade, or that unknown is scary, and you have a lot of questions, and it feels uncomfortable. Everything new feels uncomfortable, right? Just know that we're thinking about that just as much as you are. We want, but again, it comes down to declining enrollment. It comes down to a funding that does not work for Wisconsin schools, and so we have to look at every side of how we can keep the product that we have, right, and give our students what they deserve and our staff what they deserve, but also in a fiscally responsible way for our community. Work session obviously is going to happen, so there's a lot of things but I don't think I need anything else that you guys didn't say already. So that's it.
Great feedback. I'm hearing, and I think Jim is too, I don't feel like the board is in a hurry to move quickly on anything right now. I think we're in the information gathering. I mean, we still need to make sure that we have the models right for academics for the 3 buildings. We can do both in parallel, I think, but I'm hearing workshops, I'm hearing community engagement. So I think all that is good and valid. I agree. So it wasn't too long ago when that building was of interest to a potential buyer, and it kind of blew up in our face, I'll be honest. So I don't want to make that same mistake again, and I think we need to just make sure that we're involving community engagement, however that looks. I don't think we have to solve that right now, but we should have some form of community engagement.
Sooner than later, because I think that's what happened before is it wasn't anything planned or anything like this. It just kind of came there, and it would have been, I think the community felt like they would have liked to known sooner.
Yeah.
Well, and I almost wonder if community engagement wise, like if that is something could be a huge benefit to us for maybe a potential sale or potential other use of that building, where we are a bedroom community. We have so many people who work in the Twin Cities and work in so many different fields and do so many different things that there might be someone out there who's got an idea or knows someone who might know somebody, and so I think the sooner we get community involved in I guess what the thoughts are and what maybe some of their thoughts are, and because we can only come up with so many ideas, so I think the more people involved, the better.
So I think next month we have our March board meeting. We will have some more information, potentially even maybe interested buyers. So we don't know, but that's all good information to have. And I think we should look at, Jim, how can we plan either a workshop or a work session somewhere when we're ready, and what a community engagement model would look like, whatever that is. If it's a listening session or something, I don't know. I'm just we should have some form.
And we're open to ideas. We've talked about possibly doing a survey. It's easy to get a survey to all the parents because we have all their email addresses. It's harder to get to the community in general. I have met with people from the gathering space. I've met with 3 individuals one-on-one. I've been racking my brain too, and I'll take any suggestions from anybody about how to get the community to listen. One thing we talked about was doing it before the girls' playoff basketball game and see if anybody would show up then. If we did it, 6 o'clock that night. 6 o'clock on a Friday night's not traditionally a good time, but if they're showing up for the girls' basketball game, maybe we could get a few people in this room to have ideas. I do want to throw out there that anybody wants to call me or email me, please reach out.
I think just throwing up the first bullet on this slide will get people's attention. So, like those that are interested will want to inform themselves, and if we have opportunities to do that, that'll be perfect. Anything else, you guys?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
So maybe we'll table any discussion until we go through the March regular meeting, and then if we want to schedule like a workshop sometime after that to kind of dive in deep on numbers and scenarios and stuff like that, we can kind of play that route. All right, great. That's it for info and discussion. We'll go back to the agenda, recognition of visitors. Anybody in the audience want to get up? Give us an earful, anyone? Do I have to read the public comment rules again? No. All right, we're going to move on. The board will consider a motion to convene in closed session under exemptions from Wisconsin statutes 1985 1C and 1E in room 109. And that's to consider employment. Do I need to read all that? No. Okay. All right. That's the statutes. So we will take a motion in a second and go all in favor and all that. And then once we go into close, we'll roll call in.
Room changed.
Potential room changed?
109.
Did I say 109?
I don't know.
Yeah, we said 109. Yep, okay. So, anybody want to make a motion here?
I move to convene in closed session under exemptions Wisconsin statute in room 109, Prescott High School at 7:40.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We'll reconvene and close at 7:40. Do we have anything to motion and announce?
There may be one motion that's
Okay.
announced. So
If we do have a motion that we have to make, we will adjourn from closed and remain in room 109 for open. If anybody wants to stick around and come in, and we'll take action in open session.
Is this 109 right there?
Thank you.
Oh.